Hello everyone, welcome to Tabita Stories. This is our 16th episode, and for this episode we're bringing Coach Rod and Coach Armand from Simpson University. Coach Rod, he's the head coach at Simpson University, and Coach Armand, he's an assistant coach at Simpson University. And today they're going to be sharing their story, and they're going to be part of the podcast. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you.
Thanks for having us, Gustavo.
And also, today we have our co-host, Conrad Lopez, and it's nice having you here too.
Thank you, appreciate you, Gustavo. Thank you for having me. You're the best.
Can you tell us about your story, about where you come from?
I'll let
Alright,
Armand start. He's got a
Start.
good history.
Yeah, so, how Gustavo mentioned, my name is Armand Molina from Fireball, California. Small town, kind of 40 minutes west of Fresno. Grew up there, wrestled my whole life there. In middle school, kind of just did, middle school wrestling. Went to a couple national tournaments. And then in high school, I think that's when my wrestling definitely involved. Was able to make it to state 3 times. Multiple league champion, Valley placer, Masters placer. And then, a couple accomplishments that I have just in high school season. Was a cadet folk style national champion, went down to Mexico and actually competed in their, what's called their Olympic Games, sort of. It's more of a national tournament. Was able to win a gold medal there. And then multiple Fargo All-American, Virginia Beach All-American as well. And then after high school, went out to Cal Baptist, wrestled for Coach Zaleski, Coach Arshan, Coach Nicola, was a starter for them. And then left there, sat out a year, was going to transfer to Fresno State. So I actually took some classes at Fresno City. Actually was teammates with Conrad. Kind of a little story about Conrad and I. We're both teammates at Junior Dolls, I believe, in Oklahoma.
That was super cool.
So we're teammates there. So I knew Conrad. My best friend was his sophomore year at Mora. I just helped them train. Fresno City won their, I think, 3rd consecutive state championship that year. And then after that, we're just kind of, thinking about going to Fresno State. My brother got an offer to come to Simpson. Coach Rod came out. Coach Rod and I got along extremely well. And then after that, my brother had signed. We came up. I enjoyed it. And then, I decided to come out with my brother and tag along. Here at Simpson, was a 2-time starter for them because I had 2 years of eligibility left. 2-time national qualifier. First conference champ, right?
Yep, first time.
Yep, first conference champ for Simpson. And then now, how Gustavo mentioned, assistant coach for the men's. And then I head coach for the women's program, which is the first year, and we're super excited to have that going.
Yeah, that's good.
It's kind of a little background about myself.
Yeah, it's a good story that you have and that you carry. And what about you, Coach Rod? What's your story?
Okay, so I don't have all the acclimates that Armand does, but my story is long term. I started wrestling in 1968, and in high school, and I was a sophomore in high school, and I transferred from my one school that I was at my sophomore year because I met my wife, and I wanted to go to her school, and her school had a really good wrestling team, and that's where, that's why I first decided to wrestle, because my friends were wrestling, and so I wrestled there for the 3 years. At that time, California didn't have a state championship. You wrestled in your section, kind of like Masters is now. So we had a North State and a South State, basically. But I did well enough to where when I was a senior, I wanted to go to college, and I got a scholarship to Humboldt State, actually San Francisco State and Humboldt State, and I decided to go up to Humboldt, and so Evelyn and I moved up to Eureka, and then as soon as we got up there, I got my draft notice. And so I had my choice of which military service I got to go to, and I chose the Air Force. And so when I got out of the military, Evelyn and I had already had, 2 children. We were married, had 2 children. So basically my high school wrestling was my wrestling. And I dropped the sport, raised my family for a few years until my oldest son was in the 8th grade. And the school that we had locally here, high school, didn't have a coach. So I knew the principal and I asked him if I could coach. And that's when I started in 1984. And I started coaching at Enterprise. And I coached there for 25 years. And did modestly well. And then when I retired from coaching at Enterprise High School, I went to I went to Parsons Junior High School because they didn't have a program. So I started a program at Parsons. And at the same time, Coach Williams, Don Williams, from Anderson High School, was going to start a program at Simpson. And he asked me if I'd be his assistant coach. And so for the first 4 years, I was Don Williams' assistant. And we did well as a good team. And together we had some good All-Americans, placed 11th at the national tournament. And then Coach Don retired, and I decided to stay on. And so from that time forward, I've been the head coach here at Simpson, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's nice to see the way how you and like as coaches you came together and kind of like Simpson brought you two together, and kind of like through that, one of the things that I see now is that Simpson is a school that the program is new and it hasn't been there for like a long time like other schools. What are some challenges that you have faced like building this program?
The biggest challenge that we had was 4 years ago, actually 5 years ago, they cut our program. They cut all funding on it. So we had 1 year that we had to self-fund. And so, as an assistant coach, I didn't have to worry about recruiting or any of that. So when Coach Don left, I was gonna take over everything, but then they threw in the part where they cut my budget, and I had no budget. That's my biggest challenge. But after that, we were able to raise some money. We run our benefit motorcycle races, and you guys know about that. And so our motorcycle races were able to give us enough money to keep that year going. After that year, the school became 100% committed to us, and that was the best thing. Is that we had a change in leadership at the school, and Dr. Hall loves wrestling, and that's been the good thing. And so Dr. Hall has brought in a lot of different things for budget, and one of that is that we have a full budget. They brought us on as full-time coaches, and so that helps a lot, So that was the biggest challenge, was getting that program saved for that 1 year. After that, I think one of my good things I did then was to sign Esteban, because with Esteban I got a freshman wrestler, but I also got experience with Armand. And when I watch Armand coach now, he's going to be the women's head coach, and because he's doing so well at the women's head coach, it's just I see great things coming for both teams.
Yeah, I think it's the way how the program was getting cut, and now you guys were able to save the program and kind of like give back Simpson wrestling and give back the full support from the school. And now women's wrestling that you guys have, and it's a new program. It's a new program that's just growing. I think this year, right?
Yeah.
It began working Simpson's wrestling, and so it is nice to see how when it was about to die, now it is actually beginning to.
I agree with Gustavo and like what Gustavo was saying. Like cause like I didn't even know about that. So that's like really cool that you guys were able to overcome that adversity, because there's a lot of programs that would have said just said, oh well, you know, like a program got cut, oh well, and then like I guess like that's the end of it, you know. But you guys were able to get funds to continue moving forward, and like that's really cool, because you know even today there's like a lot of Division 1 programs, like Division 3 NAIA programs are just like falling off, but like it's like a really good thing that you guys kept it together, and you guys, you know, like you mentioned, the change in leadership allowed you know the funding to come back and just be successful, and you know keep moving forward. It's pretty cool.
That's one thing little catchphrase or motto is that it's not the adversity that you have faced, it's how you've handled that adversity. And I think our teams that we had handled it really well, and our guys that were here came through and they stuck it out with us. And as a coach, it was really good to see those guys come through and make it to the next step.
Yeah.
We had All-Americans that year too, with no budget.
Wow.
And 2 All-Americans, and that was a good thing.
Yeah.
And kind of like, you know, as this happened, like building these All-Americans, you know, bringing them into the team.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would see that, you know, I come from a small high school, and wrestling is not a big thing. And kind of like, you know, in college, you know, like it is kind of, you get to see it more, a little bit more, that, you know, it becomes a little bit more, you know, like seen by the people. And then wrestled Fresno City, and so Fresno City had a culture in wrestling. And so one of the questions that I was asking myself is like, it's like I like to see the culture, and I like to see the way how the team actually like gets together and kind of like they communicate, and it is a lot like family. I think that's a culture that Simpson University has, and that's really nice to see it. And I wasn't able to be here for the pre-season trainings, and I think Conrad is experienced with, you know, what Simpson University does, and I would like our listeners to kind of like see what's behind the pre-competition workouts, like before, you know, season comes, what is going on with Simpson University, and how are they preparing for season, and what's going in their mental state to be mentally ready for the season and compete in the whole.
You want to talk about that? Because you've been through it 2 years.
Yeah.
It's pretty tough. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty tough. I mean, I know. Just kind of talking about athlete and then as a coach, you know, kind of going to come in here. Going to start probably the second week of September. You know, the first week of September, always give the student athletes kind of, you know, a chance for them to get their classes, get everything situated and all that stuff. I mean, I know second week of September hits, you know, we start on the track, on running. Probably run for a good 2 weeks. Mostly do that, you know, just make sure that we have no knee injuries. You know, we always like to say that, you know, everybody thinks they're training over the summer, but, you know, you come back and we throw you out in the wrestling room, and then you sprain something or you get hurt because you weren't actually training. So, you know, to avoid any injuries or stuff like that, we put you on a track, you know, start you off light and then go up heavy as you go, more miles as days goes on. And then, we'll throw on the wrestling room, you know, heavy technique, you know, really work on stuff that Coach Cooper, myself, and Coach Rod see that we need to work on. We just go technique, start wrestling live, start doing some grind matches. And I think as tournaments go and stuff like that, we'll be able to, you know, adjust and look over our notes and be able to accommodate each wrestler for what they need to work on.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how the preseason works. And then, you know, obviously with COVID and everything was so much different, but, you know, at the end of the regular season, you know, we'll be doing a lot more sprints to get ready for the regional tournament. And then after that, you know, the week of nationals, it's calm. You know, resting, you know, just game plans about what we're going to do because the brackets are released Monday, so you know who you're going to wrestle. That's kind of how we break it down. It's just extremely successful, and it works for us.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed, being part of the Simpson University wrestling team, like right off the bat last September, that for like the second week of September, I believe you said, we were doing 2-a-days. So we would like wake up like 6 a.m., 6:15 a.m. and like 5:45, and then if we do the small loop, the trail, like I think like 2.5, something like that, like every day, and then in the evening we would do the weightlifting at 8:30 or 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
But obviously this year it was kind of more difficult because the COVID restrictions had us on like purple tier and stuff like that. But in the beginning, we were definitely hitting it hard, and then I was feeling it. So that's something that I never experienced in like a program. I did have like a weightlifting aspect that I took at Fresno City College, but the emphasis on weightlifting here at Simpson University is like a little bit more prominent in the beginning, and I wasn't used to that. And then I feel like that's kind of like something that has been able to help me grow. And then even more so, I'm sure, like, as the restrictions are like let off, Coach Rod is gonna have us pumping a lot more iron, because we need to get
in the gym more.
Yeah, everybody get in the gym more for sure.
And then the other thing that we do, which is probably different than any other college, is we live here in Northern California, real beautiful, a lot of mountains. So we had the hike up to Chemise Peak at the beginning of the year, and then we hiked Mount Lassen, 11,973 feet. And so we got to the top of Mount Lassen, and it was a little challenging. And then we gave out our goals for the year, because we started at the very top of the mountain. And that's always good.
Yeah.
The other thing that we do is, we try to be community minded, and so we do have the benefit motorcycle races that we host. And with that motorcycle race, we donate tickets and money to youth groups, and that's been very successful. A lot of the youth groups get all of their gear for the year off of our motorcycle race, and it helps us fundraise too. And then also like the stair runs on September 11th. Every year, September 11th, we have flights of stairs at Simpson, and so we run 911 flights of stairs in honor of the 9/11 attacks on the Twin Towers in New York City. And so we do things that are a little bit historical. Every year in our first dual meet in November, November 11th, which is Armistice Day, we will bring veterans into our mat, into our dual meet, and we'll honor those veterans at each weight class. And I think you had a World War II veteran.
I think so.
I think last year, or it was actually last year, because COVID we couldn't do it this year.
Mm-hmm.
But the last year, I think you had a World War II veteran that Armand was able to honor him and give him one of our Simpson wrestling shirts, and he came and sat Matt's side, who was like the coach for that day. So
Honorary coach.
Good things
really
for our
cool
community that I think this is part what we have to show as a coach. We have to show with the wrestlers that it's not just getting in there and grinding and being able to lift weights and being able to work and wrestle hard and know the good technique, but there's a whole life that we have to experience. And with that life as a wrestler, someone who has a good moral conditioning, good sound body, that we carry this on all the way through.
So kind of like as I was saying with the COVID-19, and kind of like Simpson following the guidelines, and kind of like looking at where we are, if it's dangerous, or if it's not dangerous, or if it's if it's good. I think I've been able to see that it's a really good thing that it is still able to allow athletes, not just wrestling, but other athletes, to come to the school and experience the college life, experience the practicing. And I think that in a season that went on this year, it's nice to see that wrestling was still going on for the NAIA and some other schools.
Yeah, we were real fortunate that we got as much wrestling in as we did.
Yeah.
Our whole team took very good care of themselves, which I like that. We kind of stayed in our own bubble, and I think that helped because we only had one person the whole year that had COVID, and he didn't get it from the team.
Yeah.
So he got it from his roommate. So that was good, and it was a struggle, but things weren't as normal as usual, but everybody lived through it. We're all doing good on our team, and so that was a good thing. Now we'll move on for next year,
Yeah, I think obviously COVID impacted all the universities, all the sports across the country. Like Coach Rod said, I think we were extremely fortunate being here in the North State. Less COVID cases that we had up here, but not only that, I think you got to give credit to Simpson's COVID committee.
Yeah.
I think they did a tremendous job, working with our Shasta County health guidelines and talking to them. Because, it's a big scare for us being a small private university. If we don't have athletes or students on campus, how are things going to be able to, get paid? How is the university going to be able to stay alive? So, our committee did a great job, enforcing what maybe we didn't want to do, and even our athletic trainers. I mean, there's some times, of course, we don't want to get tested. They came out with mandates that we got to get tested 3 days before our competition, where we're just like, well, we can't. But, we're able to adjust, we're able to persevere, and then we overcame the whole pandemic. Gladly, we're on the downrise of it, I believe. And then I think things are going to change next year, next season. And if they don't, our guys, our girls know what to expect. And I think by the end of the year, it was more like, all right, I know what I do. I know what I need to do. So, props to Simpson's COVID committee, to our trainers, to our president, Dr. Hall did an amazing job. And then, the athletes. Coach Rod said the athletes did a great job. They did their job well, they did what they had to do, and that's super important.
Yeah, that's one thing that I was really proud of in our coaching staff and the school as well, because more often times than not, like Gustavo was saying and like Coach Rod mentioned earlier, the Simpson University wrestling team, went out of our way to compete with other schools that had stricter guidelines, and we kind of put our deal on the line, and we were able to go out there and compete and find competition when other schools didn't want to come to us. So that's kind of something that I'm grateful for our coaching staff and Coach Armand and everybody. Just to be able to compete during COVID is pretty tough, especially getting tested once every week, twice every week. It takes a toll on your schedule and the wrestler. But like Armand said, Coach Armand said, everybody knows what to expect. Moving on next year, and we got it.
Yeah, I think with the vaccines and everything like that, we're, as a nation and as our team, obviously, we did really well. And going forward, I think we're gonna whip this COVID-19, put it on its back.
That'll be good.
Yeah, that would be nice. And what's one of the things that when you're looking for wrestlers that you want to bring to Simpson, what are the qualities that you're at least looking in a wrestler to bring it in? And
in recruiting, I first of all, I try to get people that, number one, have good grades, because those are the ones that I already know they have good work ethic. You can't get grades for free. You have to work for it. So the ones that have good grades, good work ethic, they're going to help our team because they're going to work hard on the mat, as well as they get rid of that one problem that they have is the time that they need to study. They've already managed that. And once they get through that part, then of course, everybody wants state champions and the best wrestlers. But you have to get wrestlers that are willing to wrestle and willing to be coached, even if they have been in the state finals or something like that. They have to coach and learn new things, and or improve on the things that they have. Sometimes if it's working, great. If it could work a little bit better, find out one coach or another coach might just tweak it a little bit. But that's what I look for. Somebody that's going to be steady in the classroom
Yeah, I think to add to that, I know recruiting for the women's first year, second year recruiting. I look at is the female and male interested in wrestling. I think that's extremely important. Like Coach Rod had covered. I'd been in a Division II team where we had some state qualifiers and state champs and really good guys come in and started for us. And then towards the end of the semester, middle of the semester, they just didn't have that fire in them. And they would like drop out. They wouldn't perform. And then I think that's when I really realized like, wow, like I think wrestling in college and high school is completely different. Two separate, entities, qualities. So I look, are you interested in wrestling? The other thing that I really like that is I invite them to come on campus, take out a tour, make sure they know what Reddit is about and how smart our community is and how, family oriented it is. So with that being said, I make sure, the girls are able to actually be able to get along with the girls on the team right now. I ask the girls all the time, like, okay, how did you like this recruit, that recruit, because they're going to be their teammates. They're going to be their sisters, they're going to be your brothers for the next 4 to 5 years. So if you can see someone coming in and not having the right attitude and trying to do things, that we shouldn't be doing, then you're babysitting them, So we want to avoid that. As coaches, we want to avoid babysitting. As teammates, you want to have to avoid babysitting your teammate. So, we make sure that you're welcome into the family. And I think, after this year recruiting for both men and women, you could tell that we have a family here, and that's pretty amazing. So we want to continue that as we grow both teams.
Yeah, and that's something that I also agree with Coach Armand Molina, that the transition from high school to college, even you could be like a multiple time state placer, and then Armand can tell you like once you get to college that kind of doesn't really mean anything, because I've seen Armand wrestle like multiple time state placers and ends up beating them and stuff, and that just goes to show that like we have a lot of kids and like men and women on the team that maybe they didn't have as much accolades in high school, but they're able to compete and stick with it at the college level. So because there's like I've also been in a few programs where you get these state champions that come onto your team, and then they just slip through the cracks, and you see guys that maybe are just state qualifiers and they end up becoming starters for the team, and that's kind of how it goes sometimes.
I think Joe showed us. I think Joe Alexander.
Yeah.
He's a state qualifier 1 year, won one match at state, 4 years at Simpson, and he just did everything right, And in his last year that he was here with us, there he placed 4th in the nation, All American.
Wow.
He was a late bloomer, and he put more into it his college years than he did at high school.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting story that you just mentioned, because when I think about sport wrestling, sometimes like on wrestling, sometimes you're not the best wrestler in high school, but sometimes when you go to college, when you go probably to another level, or you just keep growing, I think you mature as a person, and if you really love the sport, then the sport in you kind of like it matures and it grows in you, and then you're able to see things that you didn't see before. You're able to see that, for example, you gotta stay low in your stance, and you gotta kind of like feel where the guy is moving, then you shoot, and kind of like see the coach and listening and buying into the program. I think that's a big thing that really helps wrestlers kind of like improve and get better, because one of the things that happens when you go to the next level is that you have coaches, you have people that have been looking at the sport for years, and they have had guys that they are great, like gonna say, like state champions, and they have guys that are not so great but are able to make the lineup, and it's all because of that reason, because they are around that knowledge, that passion that they bring in, and they're able to buy into the program. And when a wrestler is able to buy into the program, to listen to what the coach is saying, to kind of like see the little mistakes and watch their videos of the wrestling matches, and then kind of like see, oh, I wasn't sprawling as much as I should have done it. Then you're able to kind of like think about things and you're like, wait, I just gotta do one little thing and then I'm better.
And you get that because your teammates in college, everybody's a champion.
Yeah, everyone's
so they
good.
push you better. Your teammates in high school, some of them are just there for fun, and so they don't push you the same.
College wrestling, in college wrestling, in high school wrestling, when we have women wrestling, we have folk style for women and men. And one of the things that I later on found out is that in college we have a different style. Can you tell us about the difference between college wrestling in men and female, between high school and
talk
college?
About the female, because you're on top of that, bro.
Yeah.
You're the guy.
Yeah, so like you had mentioned, USA's dominant in folk style. I think we're the only country who actually does folk style on the collegiate level. So, middle school wrestling and high school, and then college is collegiate wrestling. So you continue from high school to collegiate folk style, which is, you have a little adjustment, the 1 foot out, 1 foot inbound, 3 minutes in the first period, you add riding time. But women's is freestyle. So with that being said, especially here in the state of California, if you're a girl wrestler, freshman going all the way through senior year, you're wrestling at the state tournament in folk style. Kind of like Collins, you have 2 3-minute periods, so 6-minute match. If that's all you've ever done, that's all that you've ever experienced, that's your wrestling. And then come to any college you go to, you find out that women's is freestyle, which is, the international style of wrestling, sanctioned by the Olympic Wrestling Community and, the United World Wrestling Community. So it's a big culture shock to them. I know with our ladies that we had this year, I think one of them had wrestled freestyle before, and she had said she wrestled like 1 or 2 matches. The rest kind of never wrestled freestyle.
Yeah.
So it's amazing for me because I grew up wrestling all 3 sports: folk style, freestyle, Greco. Same with Conrad. I'm assuming you, Gustavo, you wrestled freestyle at least before. Coach Ryan wrestled freestyle. So I'm used to. So the girls, when they're coming in and not realizing the rules of push outs, locking hands when you're on top. It was a culture shock to them, but I think they were able to adjust extremely well. I think just like we had mentioned last time, I know our girls, only one of them had made it to state, round of 12 at state, which is incredible, especially in California. The other girls just kind of, wrestled through their season, made it to Masters, that's kind of it. But, I think our coaching staff did a wonderful job, and we were actually able to have 3 ranked girls in the country, ranked top 20. And then those 3 girls were actually able to compete at the national tournament. And then, we had 1 girl make it to the round of 12, the blood round. First year of them doing freestyle, not realizing the rules and point system, not having many matches, because unlike the men's, most of the women's freestyles are up in Oregon, and those schools were kind of canceled off till, late January, early February. So they had less matches, but they're still able to, do extremely well, and I think that just shows that, college wrestling is, like we had mentioned last time, it's different. And I think, it gives us hope, and as the coaching staff, that we're able to transform young wrestlers, maybe underdeveloped wrestlers, into strong and successful wrestlers on the mat.
Yeah, I think when we went, we had one tournament that was a true tournament, and I remember the first round our girls getting beat, and I was thinking, man, we didn't have enough wrestling for them. this was late in January.
Oh.
Man, they hardly got a season. Second round, our girls won. Third round, our girls won. Fourth round, I'm going. Armand comes back and tells me, "Oh yeah, we just kicked everybody's rear end," and I'm thinking, but I watched that first round, and then when I came back, an hour later, they were just winning, and it was just that they got the butterflies out.
Yeah.
They did really well this year. They beat national place runners.
Yeah.
That's how they got ranked.
Yeah.
They earned it.
Yeah, I think that's how they really realized that this year. That tournament. They all of them lost the first round, and
Yeah.
it was nice for us because it was round robin. So I think they had like 5 matches each, like so a crazy amount of money. They like wrestled 5 times each.
Yeah.
But they kept winning after that, and then I'm like, look at that's the girl that I actually didn't even tell them that. They would come up to me after and be like, Coach, that girl I lost the first round just lost to the girl I just beat. And I'm like, yeah, what? I know, like you could have beat that girl.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I regret losing. I'm like, yeah, well, you should, but it's a learning experience. That what happened? What happened to your first match? She's like, well, honestly, I was just so nervous to wrestle. I'm like, what are you nervous for? You've wrestled before. It's a different style, but you've wrestled before. And then after that, they ended up kicking butt, did extremely well. All the coaches came up and congratulated us. There's a little scared look on their face saying like, huh, you only have these girls, you don't have any more?
Yeah.
And I think once we have a full roster, hopefully this 21-22 season, we'll be able to turn some heads.
I think we will.
And get some championships up, which would be amazing. And then same with the men, things are rising.
Yeah, and I was watching the wrestling match. I was watching the matches, how everything was going when the girls wrestling went to the NAIA and how they wrestle. And I think it was amazing to see that even though it is a small program for the girls wrestling team, it is successful in what it's doing. And kind of like through that, men's wrestling really changed from in the competition. What do you think about that? What do you think could be some things that could improve for next year?
Well, for one thing, next year we're going to have elimination tournaments for our conference, and so that was the voting thing was bad to have coaches vote to see who goes to nationals. It's just there's too many factors, too much political stuff going on. But besides that, just the fact that we're gonna, we've got Coach Cooper who's not here today. He had some business to do. He brings a real good, strong Midwest style of wrestling. Coach Armand brings a lot of California style of wrestling. So we got not a clash, but we have a merge.
Do you think
California and Midwest?
Do you think you can share a little bit about where Coach Cooper's from and what he's done, just like briefly?
Yeah, Coach Cooper is our one of our assistant coaches. He was wrestling. I want to think he was a 2-time state champion in Minnesota, and then he went to the University of Northern Iowa, and where he was a 3-time qualifier. His freshman, sophomore, and junior year, he qualified for nationals. Junior year, he was in the round of 12, and he's a 2-time MAC champion. And his senior year, he's ranked number 3 in the nation, and was injured and couldn't finish his senior year. And so then Cooper, after graduating from University of Northern Iowa, or UNI, moved out here to California to go to Bethel Church, and he works there as a security officer, and that's where we found him. It was a good find. We were looking for somebody and to help assist me at that time. This was a year after we were cut and came back, and he's one of the guys that I heard about. Said, yeah, there's a college guy that wrestled in college, and he's over at Bethel, and I invited him to come out to look at what we have, and the next year he joined our team. So that was good to get him in.
That's really good. And I also want to touch on something that Coach Armand Molina said earlier. You know, the big thing that I saw from an outside perspective looking in on like the women's wrestling team is like, because it was so small, like, you know, a handful of wrestling girls and women, they did a good job of keeping each other accountable, you know, because you know, if you don't have your practice partner there for one day, it's like, you know, you kind of don't have anybody to practice with, and they were always at practice, and they were always making each other better, and they weren't afraid to wrestle with some of our like smaller 125-pounders, you know, men's wrestling. So I felt like that was like a really good thing that kind of elevated their game throughout the season. And then even some of our men, like I feel like this year and going into next year, you know, keeping each other accountable is gonna like help us you know, grow as a team. But that's something that I noticed about the women's wrestling team that helped them, you know, have success that they had this season, and that's gonna continue for next season.
Yes.
Yes, and before coming to Simpson, I talked with Angel a lot about Simpson, and one of the things that really made me come for me was like a last decision choice. I remember as a coach, like a text like the week the school began, and I was able to make it here. But one of the things that he would tell me a lot is that there is actually a community here, and that's something that it was hard for me to believe. And he was like, the coaches really care for you. You're gonna be successful if you're here. And so in the end, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And he talked to me about Jacob Vincent.
Yeah.
And he told me about how he was doing in the tournaments and everything. And he was like, that guy, he's gonna go to national, and he's gonna play, he's gonna be in All-American. And so kind of like looking into what happened this season, I found it to be devastating to see what happened to him, because he was doing really good all year long. And what is your vision about him? How do you see him evolve as a wrestler in the future?
Well, when we recruited Jacob, you know, I think the first thing was I was asking him what weight he was going to go, because he was a 220 pounder. 220 in high school, you can go one way or the other. You know, some will go down to 195s, and others go to heavyweight. It's easier to go to heavyweight. I said, well, he said, well, I'm right in the middle, because he was like 210, and I'm thinking, okay, you could be 197. And then I said, okay, that's good, 210. How tall are you? He said, I'm 6'5". And I thought, 210, 6'5". I said, well, what do you walk around at? And he said, well, I'm walking around right now, maybe a little bit more. And so he came out and visited us, met him, great personality, great family, you know, just what you're looking for, very smart. And then we came back from summer at about 240. I said, okay, he's going heavyweight. He's not going to cut down to 97s.
Yeah, he grew a little bit.
He grew, and he's growing. He's
still growing.
He turned 18 this year.
Yeah.
Well, you know, so he was 17 when I was, and so, you know, right now he's about 250. One of the things I remember talking to my wrestlers about it years ago. Take notes, write down notes when I'm coaching, and if you take notes, you can go home and study them and keep track of how you're doing. You know, no one ever does that in high school. No one ever does that here. And then I met Jacob, and he has all of his notes from high school, and he's got a notepad. And you're talking about Angel, you know, yeah. And Angel was his big brother this year, you know, and he was his mentor, very good. I love that about Simpson, is one wrestler will take a younger guy under his wing. So he had had Jacob under his wing until one day he saw Jacob's notebook, and on the very top of it said goals for the year, and you know, you write down your goals. Well, he has number one goal: beat Angel. And so Angel saw that. He said, I'm not going to show you so much anymore, because that's your goal, you know. But yeah, so here's a student that, you know, gets very good grades in school, and goes back to that, manages his time well, works on campus, and along with that, he writes down his matches when he's done wrestling. Right, he wants to know what he did right and what he did wrong. regardless of the situation. If he wins a match, he still wants to know what he did wrong during it. And that's that's what I see as a future wrestler, or at any sport. Someone who's going to excel in that sport or excel in life is that he's taking time to take care of himself.
Yeah, and I find it valuable for someone to take care of themselves, and I think that like you say, Angel told you about his goal was beating him. Very often after practice, when we're like in the car going back to the campus, he would tell me about how he would get frustrated wrestling him.
Yeah.
How he would get mad not being able to take him. And one of the things that Angel would tell me is that, I have that, old man
strength.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Angel's older.
Yeah, and kind of like through that, we came to a conversation where we're just talking about what are some things that could be improved, could kind of like help him like grow. And it was kind of like being patient with what you're doing and kind of like trusting the process. And Angel would say, don't get too mad, don't get too mad if you can take the guy down. Don't get frustrated, because that's going to heat you up more, and then you're not gonna be able to think about what are you gonna do, because you have to worry about the frustration, and then it gets to you that you're not able to see what's really happening.
Yeah, that's true. You don't rely on technique or on what you've learned at that time. You're just out there being frustrated, swinging, like a big bear swinging at the bees. You're not going to get them all.
And where can people contact you? Where can they get in touch to you?
Easiest way to get in touch with me is always my cell phone. And I answer it all the time. That's one thing I try to really do is stay on top of my cell phone. But it's 530-524-5833. But you can also go to the school and look up my email address at the school and contact me through email. But for me, that's cell phone's a thing. And Coach Armand?
Yep.
For women?
Yep. Cell phone, and any girls interested in wrestling, listening to podcasts, could go out and follow both our Instagrams, and our women's is SU Women's Wrestling. Follow, send a direct message. I'll get contact with you. But just like Coach Rod said, phone number's probably the best, and my phone number's area code 559-706-4485. Shoot me a text, give me a call. I'll answer kind of right away, and if I don't, it's most likely because I'm in practice, or with another wrestler on the phone or stuff like that. But that's probably the two best ways to get in contact with me.
I just have one quick question before we wrap things up here pretty soon. In terms of next season and moving forward with like your goals and everything, what's something you guys have in mind for the next couple of years, or everything in terms of becoming a more successful program, or becoming producing more All-Americans, or what do you think that's like working for you guys, or what can you guys like have noticed that's part of your formula?
You want to go first for the girls' side, and I'll take the guys' side.
Both of you guys are we have a head women's coach and head men's wrestling coach, so it's really good to see both perspectives.
Yeah, for the women's side, I think getting more out-of-state competition, being able to compete against different girls, kind of fell out in freestyle. It's a lot more like a chess game match. Of course, folk style is, but folk style you can kind of impose your will on somebody and break them. In freestyle, it's 2-3 minute rounds, and it's flurries. There's so many different ways to score. A takedown is equal to 2 push-outs, or a takedown is equal. 2 takedowns is equal to 1 throw feet to back. So the point system's so much different that it is like a chess game. You might want to give out a push out here because later on the match, you're going to be able to get a takedown or something like that. So I think the more we get to see different competition, we'll be able to know our game plan. Like, hey, maybe you want to give up a takedown because it's just better for you and you wrestle better like that. It gets you a little bit more physical. And then the other thing is, reaching our numbers, trying to get a full roster. I think once we get that, and we have like-minded young ladies, we'll be able to, reach for the stars, get All-Americans, and then hopefully national champions.
And on the men's side, very similar reasons and goals in building our team. Number one is our numbers. Our numbers are up this year. They're up. They've been up more and more each year. So we're building, and we're building with a lot of freshmen, and we're filling in with transfer students. I don't think you can build a team with transfer students. I think that those guys come in and they help and they lead. They bring that good quality from other schools, but we have to teach that to the young guys that are going to be here for longer, and build those up. And then our schedule. This year we did well, very well, considering it was COVID year, and we were able to get in 9 contacts, whereas on the West Coast, all of our Cascade Conference teams, 2 and 3 contacts. So we had more. So there was a couple of teams that didn't wrestle at all this year. It's bad because their state rules didn't allow them, and I felt sorry for those guys, but we were able to. Going forward, we already have a great schedule for next year, and I think going out of the area, spending the time back in the Midwest is going to improve our team. We're going to get better rankings because people will see us and they'll see who we are. And then the recruits that we have coming in, they're going to push you guys that are already here. They're going to push you hard because we've had a very fortunate recruiting season this year. And I think, our guys will make each other stronger, which is good. And we're not here, like Coach Armand said, we're not here to replace our guys. We're here to make them stronger, give them young freshmen that think that they are going to storm the world, and they're going to meet some of our guys that have been here a year or two, and it'll be some battles.
Yeah. And
those battles will improve everybody, and that's what I'm looking forward to, that daily battle that improves us, doesn't break us, but improves us and makes us stronger. I think we're going to be again another step.
One of the things the biggest difference that I saw coming into this team, and from my personal perspective, is the fact that Simpson University is practicing even off season, and he's still coming with this mindset that we gotta kind of like, from the way I see it, kind of like just go, like keep going, let's keep going like season, but don't focus on season right now. Just focus on getting better, and the practices that we had, all of those things, I think it eventually adds up in many cases to help you get better. Like in Jacob's case, one way I can see is that looking at his notes, looking at everything he's doing, what he's writing now, how he's gonna get better next year, and kind of like looking at what happened this season and the voting that happened in the competitions, how that kind of took his chance to be an All-American, I can just say like, away, and other guys as well. I think those practices, they are a good way to kind of touch back in time in what happened in the past and reflect on it and just get better. And I truly enjoy kind of like being in that scene of coming every day, because sort of wrestling, it becomes sort of an everyday life. And if you don't do it one day, then you can go to sleep because you're like, I didn't wrestle today, and you were not able to at least 3 or something, or do something. I think it really shapes a mindset that you always got to be ready to practice and to compete.
Ready every day.
And to conclude the show, I want to ask you guys a question, and that's what does art means to you?
So what does art, as in any particular form of art?
Yeah,
Because
anything.
I like music.
Okay.
Okay, so I listen to music all day long. You know that. And you know I'm listening to the Beatles. Everybody knows that because I can find something. So this would be art. I can find something in the Beatles songs or in any songs that I can relate to my life. You know, even if it's a love song or if it's, you know, just straight rock and roll, I can relate something in my life so I can feel that art coming to me. And I can do that better with music than I can with like a picture. To look at a picture and say that it moves me, it sometimes doesn't always move me. Sometimes it's just a picture, you know. But that art form of music, that touches me most.
Yeah, I think when I think of art, I think it's just kind of anything that you're able to express with. With that being said, Coach Rod's, able to find art in music and the Beatles, relate to it well. But, I look at art, especially in wrestling, we could teach a move a certain amount of way, but, you're going to set it up differently. You're going to put your hands in a different position, and that's okay. It's yours. It's kind of your canvas, your masterpiece. I think as coaches, we're just here to kind of instruct and tell you to be in between the lines, but our lines are a lot more abstract and, but I think, that's what I think about art.
I kind of agree with Armand what he was saying, how it's pretty much in like how Coach Rod mentioned, kind of like a blend of those two, that like anything that you're able to express, it could be music, dancing, painting, and wrestling. And as long as it moves you, that's like the most important thing. If it moves you emotionally, and you're able to express yourself, then I feel like that's kind of what art is. Because I completely comprehend Armand when he says, because everybody does like a move differently, but it's still the same move. You just do it in your own way, and it's almost like an art, especially nowadays with the techniques are loads different. But as long as it moves you and you're able to express yourself, that's what art means to me.
It has been a pleasure to have you in the show. It has been a pleasure to hear your point of view on what does art means to you and the program, how everything is growing. I actually look forward to looking at this team, like even after Simpson. Like just keeping my eye just like any other school I went to and see how it progresses and see the wrestlers, because one of the things that I learned when I wrestled at Fresno City College is that when you see another guy wrestle, you learn so much more because you're able to kind of like feed off what they are doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that even right now, like I still keep looking forward to, looking how everyone competes and kind of like see more guys coming into Simpson and being part of the community. Really appreciate your time for being in the show and for taking your time to be in Telling the Stories.